Welcome to Film School Friday. I'm Corey.
I'm Bill.
And together,
we host the In Focus podcast.
Film School Friday is our special weekly episode where we try to pass along a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of experience, whatever that might be.
We're generous guys.
We try to be.
Yeah.
We are giving. Whether you do anything with it, that's up
totally
to you.
up to you.
Yeah.
So, Corey, I've thought about, I've amassed some gear over my time working in this industry. And I thought, if I'm not having a gig, it's just kind of sitting around. And I thought maybe I should rent some gear. Should people rent gear if they have a good gear closet going?
Yes. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
So talk about that a little bit. I know when we did your episode, you spoke about it at great length. I know that's a big part of what you do.
Yeah, I think, gear rental as the owner has a lot of risk, but also a lot of reward. Depending on where you're at in the country, depending on your city, there may be plenty of rental houses in and around town that obviously you would potentially be competing with. But I think at the same time, there's certainly room for anyone and everyone to make the market competitive. I initially started using a service called ShareGrid, where you can rent out and rent as the owner or the operator everyone's gear who is comfortable putting it on that service. ShareGrid is a great option if you are comfortable lending your gear out to others, but maybe still have a little bit of apprehension. The great thing about ShareGrid is they perform background checks on everyone before they rent. They also provide insurance coverage on your equipment for that renter for that time period. It's also highly encouraged that you insure your gear outside of that one individual time. One of the things that no rental insurance covers as a one-off is what's called voluntary parting. So me as the equipment owner, I have to hold my own insurance policy that covers when I use my own equipment, when I rent others' equipment, but also covers the voluntary parting coverage for my own equipment. And what that means basically is it's kind of a risky scenario to talk about. So I might even edit this out. I don't know. We'll see. But let's say I were to rent you some lights for a shoot.
Yes.
And you rent through ShareGrid, and you like the lights so much, you're like, you know what? I'm not giving these back to you.
Dick move.
Yes, that is. That's also not theft. Interestingly enough, because I voluntarily parted with the items and gave them to you.
Interesting.
It's actually a civil issue, not a criminal issue. So I could call the police and try to file a police report. Once they get all the details, anyone that is half educated on theft would tell you, like, well, that sucks to be you, but you did give it to them. And that's where voluntary parting insurance comes into play. So definitely something to keep in mind. I will say I have rented a considerable amount of gear over the last 4 or 5 years and have never had a bad experience, knock on wood, through ShareGrid.
Well, and you got to think, too, that the reason for that is probably because the people that are renting your gear are professionals who know if they know how to use this gear and they have the money to rent it, they're professionals. They're not going to, run away with your stuff.
Yeah,
you hope.
Yeah, I don't want to oversell the clientele on ShareGrid because I have definitely rented to not professionals. But, individuals that are just getting into it.
Yeah, right.
They can't afford to own all of this equipment.
Yeah.
But they also need access to it if they want to build the skill and build their own portfolio. So I have also rented to very large production houses, to very well-known directors and DPs that come into town for projects. Mm-hmm. So it's all over the board. But I think the other great benefit of renting your equipment out is the network opportunity that it creates for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there are so many connections that I have made through both through ShareGrid and through my one-off rentals, which I definitely rent primarily through ShareGrid, but I also will rent direct to a director or to a DP if I know them or if it's through like a personal referral.
Yeah.
So don't at me with a rental request if you're a stranger.
If you don't know him, yeah.
Yeah. Or even if you know me, ShareGrid is still a great option. I prefer that in most cases for a lot of different reasons. And if we initially meet on ShareGrid, you will likely rent from me through ShareGrid forever, just because part of it is
you monopolized ShareGrid in the area.
that too. But I also I want to respect ShareGrid's business model, and if I gained a customer or a client through ShareGrid, I will continue to keep them there. So if you're a ShareGrid renter and you're like, oh, you rent direct, like forget that. You're still on ShareGrid.
That's great. That's good.
Stay in your lane.
Yeah, yeah. So Mike, I have a question. Is you mentioned rental houses, like bigger rental houses, and a lot of cities like Nashville and larger have rental houses. What does it look like when it comes to the price comparison and the accessibility compared to something like ShareGrid or individual rentals?
Yeah, it's a unique situation, and it's a great question because depending on the city, prices could be all over the board. And one of the things I've learned through friends and acquaintances and other renters is when you look at the pricing model, like if we just use our city within Nashville as an example, there are, because of the laws of supply and demand, oftentimes rental prices here, whether that's through ShareGrid or through a rental house, are oftentimes, I don't want to say a lot higher, but they can be noticeably higher than if you were to go to like Los Angeles or Atlanta and try to rent something similarly, because those markets are so saturated, the pricing is so competitive.
Yeah.
That I've on multiple occasions, I've had renters who fly into town for a project and they'll comment on the price disparity that exists between where they're coming from and where they are. Mm-hmm. And for me, I have taken that as an opportunity to be more price competitive. Like if I know that there are circles of shooters in LA that are coming to Nashville regularly, I would rather earn their business and price to the model they're accustomed to than to be like at parity with some of the local rental houses. Mm-hmm. And that probably makes some of those people upset, but my volume of rental is so much lower than theirs. Yeah. I'm not taking business away from them in most cases.
Yeah. And you don't have like grip trucks and things like that.
No, I don't.
Not yet.
No. I am really close to a 1-ton grip truck worth of equipment.
Yeah.
But I don't own the actual truck and probably never will.
Yeah. That's a whole nother lift.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. Well, I think you've convinced me.
You're going to rent your gear out?
I think I might rent some gear out.
Just don't rent anything that I also own. I don't
want to compete with you.
I'd hate to have to come kneecap you or whatever.
I'll just rent my Fresnels.
Yeah. There, on ShareGrid, there are not many tungsten lights available. You might.
Really?
Oh, yeah, man. With LED all the way. Welcome to 2021.
Hey.
No,
tradition.
I'm not knocking on hot lights. They still absolutely have a place.
Yes.
Just not on my set.
I prefer a mixture.
Yeah. That's possible too.
And you know what? For those days when you're on a really cold shoot, you're going to appreciate a tungsten.
That's true.
Well, awesome.
Yeah. Well, glad I could make you a renter.
Yeah.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you. I'll have to compete with you.
I might even have a ShareGrid referral code. I'll have to check. If I do, I'll put that in the show notes.
Do it.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for asking.
Hey, you're welcome.
Yeah. And for our listeners, make sure you check us out on Instagram at InFocusPod or online at InFocusPodcast.com. And if you like what you heard today, go ahead and subscribe. Hit that like button, hit the bell. I don't know where you're listening, but if there's like a button or anything that would make you a fan,
hit that one.
Hit that one.
Yeah.
And until next time,
feed your crew something amazing.
Yes.
Treat them